Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're taking a look at a real mystery, one you've probably seen in your own life. You look at a friend, or honestly, maybe even in the mirror, and you just wonder, why on earth is this bad financial situation dragging on forever? It's so easy to judge, right? To think, oh, they just don't care, or they have zero self-discipline. But listen, it is rarely just about being bad at math, and it's definitely not a character flaw. So today, we're going to approach this with a lot of empathy and shared curiosity. We're going to pull back the curtain and figure out what's really going on behind the scenes of our bank accounts. Because, let me tell you, the human mind does some wildly complex stuff when money gets tight.
So why do we stay in bad financial situations? It's a profound question. I mean, from the outside looking in, staying in a draining, stressful, or totally stagnant financial spot seems completely illogical. If you're paying, say, a ridiculous $15 monthly maintenance fee for a checking account at a bank you absolutely despise, human instinct says you should want to fix it today, right? You should march down there, pull your cash out, and find a better option, but we don't. We stay. We pay the fee month after month, year after year. We just tolerate the debt. We endure the stress. Today, we are going to dissect exactly why that universally relatable, deeply human behavior happens. We'll see how our brains actively convince us that staying stuck is actually the best option on the table.
Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, the financial trap, or when bad situations persist.
You see, a bad financial situation is merely a visible symptom. It is not the root cause of the problem. And to really get this, we have to flip our standard perspective completely upside down. Think of it kind of like an iceberg. The part we can actually see above the water, the unpaid bills, the high-interest credit cards, the persistent lack of savings. On paper, it looks like absolute madness. We wonder why someone doesn't just steer the ship away. But we really have to accept this as a baseline human reality. We are incredibly complex creatures. When something doesn't make logical sense on the surface, it almost always means there is a massive, hidden psychological architecture working just below the waterline, holding the entire structure in place. We can't just treat the symptom by telling someone to spend less, right? We need a much deeper psychological investigation to understand the invisible forces at play.
Which brings us to Section 2, the comfort zone paradox. Comfort versus familiarity.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this juxtaposition, a bad financial situation acting as a comfort zone. This is what we call the paradox pivot, and it creates massive psychological friction in our minds. I mean, how on earth can a terrible, stressful financial reality function as a safe space? We typically think of a comfort zone as a cozy bed, a warm cup of coffee on a rainy Sunday, or a relaxing vacation. We assume comfort inherently means positive feelings. But human psychology, it is much stranger and way more adaptable than that. A terrible situation can actually mentally function as a highly protective bubble. The brain, it turns out, is not optimizing for your long-term wealth, it's optimizing for what it already understands.
So let's look at the actual definition here. A comfort zone is a psychological state where conditions feel familiar, causing people to stay in bad financial situations to avoid the unknown. I really want you to focus on that key word, familiar. We constantly go through life conflating true comfort with mere familiarity. A situation doesn't actually have to be comfortable, it just has to be something you're used to. It's exactly like a lumpy, terrible mattress. It completely ruins your back, you wake up sore every single morning, but hey, it has your exact indent in it, so you refuse to throw it away. If you are entirely used to stressing out about your credit card balance every single Tuesday, well, your brain knows exactly how to handle Tuesday. It's a miserable feeling for sure, but it is highly predictable. And to the human brain, predictability is a bizarre form of safety.
There are precise mechanics driving why people stay in these zones. We have an incredibly powerful, hardwired preference for familiarity and a deep-seated avoidance of the unknown. And the danger is, we conflate that baseline familiarity with true financial safety. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. Your primal mind looks at your current financial mess and basically says, well, I survived yesterday, so I know for an absolute fact I can survive today. It prioritizes the devil it knows over the inherent terrifying uncertainty of trying to completely change your financial reality. Taking a risk to fix your finances introduces variables the brain just cannot predict. The unknown is scary to the amygdala. Staying stuck, ironically, feels immensely safe because all the threats are already mapped out. All right, moving to Section 3, defining financial inertia, the law of motion in money. So the crucial point is this concept of financial inertia. It's the psychological tendency for an individual's financial situation to remain at rest, even if it's bad, due to the power of comfort zones. I want you to think of this just like Sir Isaac Newton's laws of physics. An object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. In this case, the psychology of your comfort zone acts as a literal heavy weight. It anchors you down and keeps you physically and financially stuck in place. The gravity of this inertia is so incredibly powerful because doing absolutely nothing requires zero psychological calories, while doing something, anything at all to change it, feels impossibly exhausting.
Let's walk through exactly how this progression flows. Step 1, you experience a bad financial situation. Step 2, over time, your brain develops a psychological comfort zone around it just to cope with the ongoing stress. And step 3, you succumb to financial inertia. Do you see how perfectly this engine runs? It is a continuous, self-reinforcing feedback loop. The psychological defense mechanism that you build in step 2 completely neutralizes your ability to act, resulting in a total behavioral standstill by step 3. The very tool your brain uses to protect you from stress becomes the literal cage that keeps you trapped in it.
I want to just take a moment to really let this sink in. People stay in bad financial situations because the psychology of comfort zones creates overwhelming financial inertia. It is beautifully and tragically simple. These psychological concepts interlock seamlessly, just like gears in a clock. If you have been beating yourself up for not making progress, I truly hope this provides a massive sense of relief. You aren't failing. You are simply caught in a perfectly designed psychological trap where your own subconscious survival instincts are actively working against your financial growth.
And this brilliantly illustrates our ultimate practical takeaway. Breaking financial inertia requires disrupting the psychological comfort zone. You cannot simply try to fix the math of a bad financial situation. A shiny new budget spreadsheet won't work. Downloading another personal finance app to your phone, not going to work. Not unless you first address the psychological inertia that is holding you in place. To get the math to work, you have to actively choose the discomfort of the unknown, like finally logging into your banking app to actually look at those scary numbers, or enduring the absolute hassle of canceling that old account over the heavy safety of the familiar. You have to willingly step into the unpredictability that your brain is trying so hard to avoid.
Which leaves us with one final provocative question to consider today. What financial comfort zones are you currently stuck in? I encourage you to take a hard, honest look at your own behavioral inertia. What predictable stresses are you holding on to simply because they are familiar to you? Identifying that invisible psychological trap is the very first step to breaking free, stepping out of that indent on the lumpy mattress and getting your financial momentum back. Keep asking questions, keep challenging those familiar discomforts, and I'll see you next time on The Explainer.